Hi there, I'm Margie from Hush Education. The story I'm going to read today is quite a long one, and I won't be showing you too many pictures because it's got more words than pictures in it. It's another story by a very good friend, Holly Ann Martin from Safe for Kids. This one's called Gary Just Didn't Know the Rules. Now this is a really good story to listen to. It does teach children the 5 rules about body safety, and it goes through a couple of scenarios that children might be aware of. Most importantly, from my point of view, it talks about the rights of the child, and we talk about these in our Year 5 and 6 school programs. So it's a good introduction, a good chance to find out what some of those rights are. And it's a great way to start some conversations about rights and the responsibilities that come with these rights as well. So teachers, you might want to recommend this one to your Year 5 and 6 students to watch and listen to over the next few weeks when they're doing some learning from home. So Gary Just Didn't Know the Rules by Holly Ann Martin. Miss Martin was deep in discussion with her class. They were discussing what human rights are. Suddenly there was a knock at the door, and Mrs. Langley, the principal, stepped into the room, followed by a young boy. "Good morning, Miss Martin," she said. "You have a new student. His name is Gary, and he will be joining your class." Miss Martin smiled. "Welcome, Gary. Would you like to sit here on the floor next to Elliot, and we'll find you a desk when we have finished our lesson." Miss Langley left and Miss Martin continued her lesson. "Gary, our lesson is on something called protective education, which is about kids learning to keep themselves safe. In protective education, we have 2 life rules. Today, we are looking at the first life rule: we all have the right to feel safe all of the time. And we are talking about the United Nations Human Rights of the Child, which are designed to help keep children safe. Can anyone explain to Gary what human rights are?" Lots of hands went up. "Yes, Lauren, what are human rights?" Human rights are a big, long list of things our government has agreed to that every child in Australia should have. They don't have to be earned, you are born with them. Excellent, Lauren. Can anyone give me an example of a human right? "The right to have food when you are hungry," answered Mary. "Some children in other countries don't have enough to eat." "The right to have an education," said Jeremy. "In some countries, girls can't go to school and get an education. Only boys go to school." "That's not fair," said Hayden Reese. "The right to play and not to have to work like a grown-up," declared Brendan. "I watched a documentary where even very young children had to go to work at a rubbish dump and collect bits of plastic. They didn't even have shoes or gloves." "I'm so glad I don't live there," said Hayden Reese. The bell went and Miss Martin let the children go out to play. Hayden Reese asked Gary to join him in a game of Foursquare. Gary seemed to settle well into Miss Martin's class until about a week later. David came into class after recess. He seemed rather quiet, and Miss Martin knew something was wrong. At lunchtime, after all the other children went out to play, David said, "Miss Martin, can I tell you something?" "Of course, David. You know you can talk with me about anything." "You always teach us that when we feel unsafe, when we get our early warning signs, we should tell someone on our safety team. But it's not easy," said David. "Take your time," Miss Martin spoke very gently. David went on to tell Miss Martin about something private that happened in the boys' toilet at recess time involving Gary, which gave him his early warning signs. "I'm so glad you told me, David. I believe you, and it wasn't your fault, and I will deal with it. Gary is new to our school and he just doesn't know the public and private rules. David felt much better after telling Miss Martin what had happened and knew she would do something about it. David's early warning signs went away and he went off to lunch feeling much safer. After lunch, Miss Martin asked all the children to come and sit on the floor in front of her. This afternoon we are going to revise the public and private lesson I taught you. Who can tell me what private means? All the children put up their hands except for Gary. Yes, Lauren. Private means just for you. Well done, Lauren. Who can tell me the names of the 3 private rooms in your home? Hayden Reese's hand shot up. Miss Martin said, yes, Hayden Reese. Bedrooms, bathrooms and toilets are private rooms. And what makes them private is when you shut the door. You mustn't play in the toilets. You just go in, go to the toilet, wash your hands and come out. Hayden Reese looked very pleased with himself. He was thinking back to the time he made the mistake of looking over the wall at Lauren in the girls' toilet before he knew the rules. Miss Martin gave him a knowing wink and said, exactly right. What are the names of our private body parts? Asked Miss Martin. Elliot named all the boys' private body parts: mouth, bottom, penis and testicles. Gary laughed, but Miss Martin didn't tell him off. Karen named all the girls' private body parts: mouth, breasts, bottom, vulva and vagina. Well done, everyone. You have remembered everything I've taught you. Miss Martin beamed at the children. Now we are going to learn something new. I'm going to teach you the 5 private rules. If you follow these rules, they will help keep you safe at home, at school, in fact, anywhere you go. If anyone breaks these 5 private rules and you get your early warning signs and feel unsafe, you need to tell someone on your safety team. Who can tell me what a safety team is? Miss Martin waited. Cameron was the first to put his hand up. Yes, Cameron? A safety team is 5 trusted adults you can talk to about anything. They need to know what has happened so they can help you feel safe again. Excellent, Cameron. Miss Martin smiled. Now let's get started on the 5 private rules. Rule number 1. No one, not other children, teenagers or adults, or even teenagers or adults in your family, should touch your private body parts, except for medical reasons or to help you clean. And then they should ask you for your permission to do so. If someone does touch your private parts, it's not your fault. They are breaking the law. Miss Martin paused and looked around. Who can tell me what breaking the law means? Karen explained. Laws are rules that the government makes, that everyone in the country must obey. The police make sure everyone follows these rules or laws to help keep us all safe. Breaking the law means not obeying these rules. Well done, Karen. Great answer, said Miss Martin. Rule number 2. You are not allowed to touch anyone else's private body parts. Sometimes children might think it's a game or funny to touch other people's private parts, but it is actually against the law. Rule number 3. No one should show you private pictures or private movies. Remember, we learned what to do if you see private pictures or private movies. If you see pictures like that by accident, you say, "That's private," and turn away. Then go and tell an adult on your safety team. But if anyone, another child, teenager or grown-up, even a member of your family, shows you these kinds of pictures or movies, that is against the law. If you come across private pictures or private movies, you must not show other children, because that would also be against the law. Rule number 4. No one is allowed to take private pictures of you. Sometimes adults make mistakes and might take pictures of children playing in the bath or naked under a sprinkler because they think it's cute. But this is not okay. It's against the law. Rule number 5. You are not allowed to take private pictures of yourself. Sometimes teenagers don't know these rules and make mistakes by taking pictures of their private body parts. If you have older brothers or sisters doing this, you might think it's fun and copy them, but it is against the law too. Remember, private means just for you. So these are the 5 private rules to help keep you safe. If anyone breaks these rules and you get your early warning signs and feel unsafe, you need to tell someone on your safety team and keep telling until someone listens to you. Gary had been listening very carefully during the lesson and looked thoughtful as all the children left the classroom that afternoon. He stayed behind and spoke to Miss Martin. "Miss Martin, can I tell you something?" "Of course you can, Gary. You can tell me anything." Gary told Miss Martin about something that had been worrying him for a long time. "I'm glad you told me, Gary. I believe you, and that wasn't your fault. You were very brave to tell me about it, and I'm going to do what I can to help keep you safe." Gary felt so much better after talking to Miss Martin, and he was very glad he had come to this new school. And this book again has lots of notes for parents and educators, questions to ask, topics to discuss. Just start the conversation with your children, with your class, and I hope you enjoyed listening to this story. Bye.